Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Challenger webinar, Control in an Uncontrollable World. My name's Amy Smith, and I am the Senior Director of our Effortless Experience programs here at Challenger. I'm joined today by Matt Dixon, the founding partner of DCM Insights and the co-author of the book, The Effortless Experience. Really quick housekeeping. I wanted to let everyone know that if you have questions, feel free to write them in the chat or in the Q&A box. We'll answer as much as we can as we go. And we have a lot to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt to jump right in.
I was secretly hoping Amy would take more time so that I could blame her for going over later, but she knew what I was going to do. So this is fun for so many reasons. I think the first one is it's always like a reunion of old friends when getting together with the team at Challenger, so many of whom I worked with over the years at CEB, now Gardner, on the research we're going to talk about today. So it's always fun to come back and talk about some of this content with the Challenger team and with Challenger customers and prospective customers. The other thing that's exciting is this is a bit of a challenge, no pun intended for me, because Challenger, I think wisely has said, look, in a world of everyone's zoomed in webinar to death, we're keeping this to 30 minutes. Our customers are busy and they need to do important things like serve their customers and oversee their service organization. So let's keep it pretty tight. So let me say this. First of all, it's going to be a challenge because those of you who know me know I can go long. But we're going to keep it to 30 minutes, let you get about your day. With this as a down payment, I will make an open offer to everybody here. If there's anything in here that really piques your interest, if you're interested in digging in more detail, then what I'd encourage you all to do is reach out to Amy, to Whitney, to Emma, to the team at Challenger, and let them know that you'd like to pick up the dialogue. Boy, something in that presentation really sparked my curiosity. I have more questions. I'd love to get this content from my team. Reach out to Challenger and let's see if we can set that up and make that happen. So with that, this is going to be the drinking from the fire hose compressed version. Some food for thought, as many of you are enjoying food for lunch right now, depending on where you are. So let's jump into it. Today's topic is, how do we get control in what feels like an uncontrollable world? Now, I'll tell you, it feels that way because it is that way. I think that it's not an overstatement. I've been studying customer experience and specifically customer service organizations and contact centers for the better part of 20 years now. And I think it's no exaggeration to say that I've never seen an environment like the one we're in today. And as I think about, what it feels like today, it feels like things are spiraling out of control. And it feels that way for our customers. It feels that way for our frontline representatives, and it feels that way for us as leaders. So just to talk through maybe those three dimensions for a moment. From the customer's perspective, service today is pretty frustrating. Like everything else, it feels like it's on back order, and you're having to wait a really long time. I had an experience with my business bank just last week where I had to call in 3 times. Every single time I called in, I was told that wait times were longer than usual, that call volume was higher than expected. There was no option to get a call back, and so I had to wait on hold, and they were experiencing telephony issues. So I got disconnected 2 times. And on the 3rd time, I said to the representative, please don't disconnect me. And please promise me that if I get disconnected, you will call me back. I cannot waste any more time sitting on hold. But I can't remember the last time that I, as an individual customer, called a contact center and didn't get that message. I mean, it just feels like the norm today, much like it feels like the norm to have to wait, weeks or months or even longer to get things that just 3 years ago you could have gotten delivered to your doorstep the next day. So again, it feels like service on delay. I will tell you as a customer, and I think for many of your customers as well, we feel this growing disconnect, don't we, between the digital experience, which feels like it gets better and better and better every day, every month, every year for the companies we do business with. But it feels like the live service experience is much the same as it was 10 or 20 years ago today as it was back then. It hasn't evolved very much. It feels scripted, robotic, generic. Feels like you get a lot of that fake empathy coming through the phone after you've been waiting on hold for an hour on the 3rd call you've had to make because you got disconnected in the other 2. Sorry, a little bit autobiographical there. Now, from your representative standpoint, life is really hard for them too. Gone are the days that the easy issues are being handled. You would back in the day get a few hard issues, few complex issues, but then you get some easy ones as well to kind of level things out and give you a breather as a representative. That's not true anymore. Our customers are going online and going to the mobile app, going to the website, going wherever to digitally solve those simple queries, those simple issues. And as self-service becomes more sophisticated, it continues to siphon off a lot of those simple issues from the queue. So what ends up in your lap as a service representative, and this is true today, but it's going to be even more true next year and in ensuing years, that the stuff that makes it through the nets that ends up in the lap of the service representative is by definition the hard stuff. It's the complex issues that the customer couldn't resolve on their own. They may have tried, but digital is not quite up to the task. So these are the issues that are complex, they're nuanced, they're varied. Many times they're issues that our representatives have never encountered before. So it puts them on their heels right away. Also, life in today's day and age as a service representative is really tough, right? You're gone are the days of sitting shoulder to shoulder with your colleagues in the contact center and being able to lean over the cue ball or tap your tenured rep neighbor on the shoulder and ask for a little bit of coaching or guidance or for help on those complex issues. Now you're by yourself working in your basement, with all the distractions of home, without that physical peer network we once enjoyed in the contact center. Now, from a leadership level, everything's kind of coming to a boil, isn't it? We're seeing metrics trend in the wrong direction. Handle time is up, escalations are up, callbacks are up. The things we want to drive down, like effort, are trending in the wrong directions. Things we want to drive up, like NPS and CSAT, are trending in the wrong direction. Upsell and cross-sell is soft, right? It's hard to drive those offers into a customer base where those customers are really frustrated by the time that cross-sell or upsell offer might be appropriate to present to a customer. And when we look across our contact center, it feels like people are leaving in droves because they are leaving in droves. It's not the war for talent we've seen forever in the contact center industry, where our people would leave for $1 more an hour to a contact center down the street or across town. Now they're leaving and they're just opting out of contact center work altogether. They're part of the Great Resignation, and the time to fill is really long. And so we have all this customer demand coming through a really small and increasingly narrow pipe to handle it. And by the time those customers get a hold of our reps, they are really frustrated before the rep even has a chance to say hello. And they've got nobody to vent to because they're sitting in their basement working on their own. So things feel like they're spiraling out of control because they are spiraling out of control. And so the conventional wisdom out there in a world where things are getting out of control in service is the way we get control, or the way we kind of reverse the flow, if you will. The way we get control in this world is that we need to take more control. And so what we tend to do as service leaders is that we go back to the basics. We tighten the screws on the operation. We revisit the call handling process. We try to drive more consistency in the way that we engage our customers. We try to tighten up the script. We try to revisit the QA criteria, make sure all of our reps understand what they're being measured on. Make sure that we say the customer's name not 2 times, but 3 times. Make sure that we always acknowledge the issue up front, and we always thank the customer for her loyalty at the end of the issue and at the end of this call, and ask if we fully resolved their issue today. Again, our knee-jerk reaction in service is that to get control in an increasingly uncontrollable world where things feel like they're spiraling out of control, the way we do it is we lock down and we take control. But what I'm going to share with you today is that that's actually not the way to get control in a world where it feels like things are spiraling out of control. And to do that, let me share with you a little bit of research that I would argue was ahead of its time. And in fact, it's also unfortunately towards the back of the Effortless experience. So many of you may have missed this, but it's really important content that really speaks to how we actually get control in this world where things feel like they're out of control. Now, the research goes back, and give you the Cliff Notes version here, goes back a number of years. And a number of years when Amy and Whitney and Lauren Pragoff and Emma and I were all working at CEB, we were working with several hundred customer service leaders across industry around the world. And the big question that they wanted us to answer with research was, I've got $1 to spend on driving new skills and behaviors or reinforcing key skills and behaviors with my team, but there's so many things I could invest that dollar in. What should I invest in first? And so we went out and studied all the things that we tend to invest in. We studied basic skills and behaviors. You could spend that dollar on call handling process training, on basic skills training, on reinforcing the QA checklist, teaching people how to use the tools and technologies at their fingertips. We could invest it in advanced problem solving, because of course in this world where more complex issues are coming in, it might be a good spend of that dollar to help our people with that more advanced problem solving. Or in a world where people are increasingly frustrated, and they're frustrated before the rep even says hello, and it puts the rep on their heels immediately. Maybe the place you spend that dollar is on soft skills, dialing up that EQ, that emotional intelligence in our contact center or with our reps. And what I'll tell you is all of these things are fine things to spend that dollar on. It turns out, as you see from the data here, they all deliver a lift in terms of rep performance. None of these are bad, right? You will get a return on any of these investments. A little bit of variability, of course, but what we found is that they were all fair places to place your next bet. But here's the first wrinkle in the research. It turns out that there was a fourth set of behaviors and skills, attitudes, if you will, that were an order of magnitude more powerful in terms of driving rep performance than any of the three things that you see here on the slide. And the fourth driver was this. It was something we called the control quotient. Now, what is the control quotient? Well, and how do we figure this out? Well, the way we did this is we ran what's called a factor analysis. We threw all of these skills, attitudes, behaviors up in the air, and what came out was a set of skills, attitudes, and behaviors that kind of clumped together in the model, and they moved together in the model. They were a discrete, statistically speaking, a discrete bucket that was different from basic skills and behaviors, advanced problem solving, IQ, or emotional intelligence, EQ. It was a different set of things. It was stuff like resiliency, our reps being able to let things roll off their shoulders or wash right over them, not take it personally when we're dealing with those frustrated, angry customers. Handling high pressure situations well without becoming burnt out, right? Be able to, again, just go with the flow and not take it personally. Be able to take punch after punch in that really tough service operating environment that we're in today. Take responsibility and ownership for your actions. Be able to own the issue, even those complex issues, and kind of run them to ground and take full responsibility, run that issue to closure before we let that customer go. Responding well to constructive criticism and feedback, embracing feedback, looking for those opportunities to get better at our jobs every single day, and being able to remain concentrated on tasks over extended periods of time. What this means in a contact center is being just as dialed in and engaged on the first call of your shift as you are on the last call of your shift. Now, when you look at these things, you might imagine this is like a description of your very best people. Those people who just come in every day and they're plugged in from the first call to the last. They never take it personally, fully engaged, take ownership, take responsibility, and always looking for those opportunities to get better. Boy, that is the picture of a model service representative, a frontline agent. We called these things the control quotient. And as you see from the data here, it turns out that control quotient had more than twice the impact of any of the other things. So if you had $1 to invest, you would invest it in dialing up the control quotient. But how do you do that? Well, here was the second wrinkle in our research. It turns out that control quotient is a bit different from the other things that we studied. Let me explain what we're looking at here. A lot going on this slide. On the left-hand side, all of the stuff on the left, basic behaviors, using systems, following the call handling process, knowing what's on the QA checklist, all of those things, IQ, advanced problem solving, and EQ, establishing that emotional connection with our customers, all of those things varied by individual. But CQ did not. CQ didn't vary by individual, it varied by company. Let me explain this in a little bit more detail. What we found in the research is that when you look at any of the stuff on the left, basic skills and behaviors, IQ or EQ, what you would find in the typical contact center is a normal distribution of performance. In other words, there were some people who are really not good at the EQ thing. There are a bunch of people who are average. About 60% of people fall right in the middle of the normal distribution. They're about average. They're pretty good. And then there are a bunch of really high performers, 20%, right? It's a normal distribution. 20% are bad, 60% are average, 20% are really good. And that was true of basic behaviors, IQ and EQ. You saw a normal distribution within every contact center in our study. But EQ didn't behave that way. We didn't find a normal distribution across individuals within a contact center. We found a normal distribution of contact centers. Here's what I mean. You didn't find variation within the contact center. Either you worked in a low CQ contact center, a moderate CQ contact center, or a high CQ contact center. And if you were in a low CQ contact center, every single rep in that contact center demonstrated low CQ. If you were in an average performing CQ contact center, everyone had average levels of CQ. And if you had a high CQ contact center, everybody in that contact center had high CQ. It didn't vary by individual. It varied by organization. So that's explained a little bit on what you see in the lower right. But let me also say on the upper right, Well, the other fascinating things about CQ is that CQ, it turns out, it's not that those high performing contact centers, those high CQ contact centers just hired different people. It was that they had figured out how to unlock the CQ that was within every single one of their individual agents. If you look at the upper right, what you see is that 94% of the individual service reps in our study had high or moderate CQ potential. In other words, it was locked inside of them. All they needed was for the contact center to unlock it, to unleash it, to let them use their CQ potential and unlock it for the good of the organization, the good of their individual performance. So here's what I'll tell you. First thing we found, there's this fourth lever called CQ that we never knew to look for. We never knew was out there. Turns out it's the biggest lift on agent performance that we can invest in. The second thing is, this is not something that we need to go invest in foxhole by foxhole. It's not like basic behaviors, IQ or EQ, where we need to coach and train and develop every individual rep on a person by person level. This is a light switch that we either turn on or turn off at the contact center level. In other words, tomorrow you could decide that you want to be a high CQ environment, and it is something that leadership decides whether to flip the switch on or off. So how do we do it? How do we create a high CQ contact center? Because clearly we would all love that 11.2% lift on rep performance. And there's some other benefits I'll tell you about in a moment as well. How do we unlock the CQ that's within every single one of our reps? Turns out there were 3 organizational levers, 3 ways that high CQ environments unleash the CQ potential within their people. The first thing they do is they demonstrate trust in their reps, and specifically demonstrate trust in their individual reps' judgment to do the right thing, to understand the customer issue, to take ownership of the issue, and to deliver the kind of experience that they know is right for that customer. The second thing they do is they align those individual reps to the goals of the organization. I know how what I do and what I'm doing on this call ties to what the CEO is talking about in the annual report, or talking to our shareholders and the rest of the organization about, right? I know how my work, this call, ties to our mission, our goal, our objectives as an organization. And the last is that they strengthen peer networks. And they look for opportunities, not just to allow reps to engage with one another, but they encourage reps to engage with one another. And they tell reps it's an expectation. In fact, we get better, you get better as an individual when we all get better and we all learn from one another. We want you to go out and harness the wisdom of crowds, the wisdom of your peers, so that we all get better and you perform at your highest level possible. Now, when you look at these things, I think many of us are wondering, well, I think I do all these things. I trust my reps. I think they know how what they do ties to what the organization's all about. And we certainly do allow them to interact, and we encourage it. But I don't think I'm getting that lift in performance. In fact, I think we're probably seeing the opposite. My NPS scores are down, my CSAT scores are down, my cross-sell upsell is down, my effort is going up, my escalation is going up, transfer is going up, handle time's going up. And so I don't think I'm getting that lift. And what I'll tell you is that as we peeled back the layers of the onion, we found that there were a number of things that companies do where they inadvertently bump into the light switch and turn it off. If CQ is a light switch that we turn on at the organizational level, there are a lot of things that we do, maybe unwillingly, unknowingly, and certainly unintentionally, that actually mistakenly turn these switches off. Let me tell you what those are one by one. Demonstrating trust and rep judgment. It turns out that when companies hold reps accountable to things like rote metrics like handle time, adherence to QA checklists, open the call this way, standard open and close, always ask the customer this, always thank her for loyalty, use their name 3 times. When we do stuff like that, it actually sends reps the message that you don't trust their judgment, that you actually trust your own judgment. You just want them to parrot your judgment to the customer. Also, when we send our reps to elementary or rote training. So when we teach them, here's the QA checklist, here's how to stick to the script, here's how to use this tool in exactly this way, here's the call handling process, even basic soft skills, right? That are designed to teach them how to be nice to other human beings and how to engage with them from a soft skills perspective. These things send your reps the message that you really deep down don't trust them. Here's another one that's not on the slide. But when companies invest in screen pops, right? Whether that's suggested scripting or upsell and cross-sell offers based on what the system is picking up in the customers, what the customer's saying, or maybe it's just those emojis and those emoticons we flash in front of the customer, like, hey, frowny face, danger, Will Robinson, the customer's mad because they're yelling at you right now. What that does is it sends your reps the message that you don't trust them to have figured out that the customer's yelling at them and they're actually upset. And so you need a machine to tell them that the customer's upset and yelling at them. Those signals we send, again, we do it for the right reasons because we think it's going to help our people actually inadvertently send them the message that we don't trust their judgment, and we're turning off the CQ switch that we thought we were turning on. We bumped into the light switch and we turned it off. Alignment to rep organizational goals. If your reps cannot articulate what the company's mission, objectives, values are, what its growth objectives are, what its OKRs and MBOs are, and how that ties exactly to what they do on every single call with every single customer, resolving every single issue, then you actually have not gotten alignment. You may have gotten at the team level or the contact center level, but you haven't gotten at the organizational level. And then lastly, strengthening peer networks. Many of us think, well, boy, we have an instant messaging platform. Our reps can talk to one another. We haven't told them they can't, but walk around your contact center. Do people sit in pods? Do they sit around a bench or a desk with a low wall where they can actually, it's encouraged to collaborate with your peers? Or do they sit in these high siloed cube wall environments? Do we actually arrange breaks so that they don't collaborate and they don't interact with one another? Because heaven forbid they share some erroneous information and then that stuff spreads like wildfire. Or do we tell our reps, again, this is not something you're allowed to do. This is something you are expected to do. And we know that you guys are the experts here, and you get better by leveraging one another's expertise. That's how we all get better. So again, these are things that we inadvertently do in customer service that actually end up turning CQ off. So let's think about this in a little bit, and let's think about what we're doing right now every single day in our service organization. We may feel like we're doing the right things for our reps, but are we mistakenly bumping into the light switch and turning that CQ switch off? Now, let's keep us moving. I want to share an example here from a company, and I think this is going to be a great example, a great illustration of what a high CQ environment feels like. If you haven't read this article, by all means, pick it up, check it out. This is an article I wrote back in 2018, I think is the best example of a company that gets it right. This is a great example of a company that has figured out how to show your reps that you trust their judgment, has gotten their reps dialed in and 100% focused from the CEO on down to the most junior rep, the newbie on the team, in terms of what they do every single day and how that ties to the company's objectives, mission, and values. And they really encourage, in fact, they design their operating system to enable and facilitate and actually reward team collaboration. This is T-Mobile. This is our team of experts model. The article was called Reinventing Customer Services in the HBR issue from in 2018. You see here on the right-hand side. We can get you a copy of that, of course, if you'd like to read more. But let me give you the Cliff Notes version of this story. So T-Mobile, a number of years ago, figured out that there was a better way to run the service organization. They figured out that the traditional model where the customer calls in and they are routed by the IVR to, an account management person, a billing person, a tech support person, a sales person, based on what their issue was. And that investing in a lot of the basic stuff like basic skills, revisiting QA criteria, revisiting the script and the call handling process, investing in some tools and technologies here and there, investing in IQ, advanced problem solving, and EQ, just never moved the needle enough on any of the metrics they cared about. Everything had kind of flatlined. They were always pretty good, but they never figured out how to make customer service a true difference maker for their organization. Until a woman named Callie Field took over customer service a number of years ago. She's now EVP and Chief Customer Officer at T-Mobile. And she and her team went to work completely stripping down to the studs their customer service operating model and building something different. And here's what they built. They redesigned their operating environment around 40-person teams of experts. So they got out of the individual performance model into a team-based performance model. And here's specifically how it works. So imagine I am a customer in Salt Lake City. And in the old world, I would call and go through the IVR and get routed to an individual who would, today handle my tech support issue. But if I called back in 2 weeks and a billing issue, I would get routed to somebody else. Now, when I call in, I get routed to my team of experts. May not always be the same person, but it's always somebody on that team. Now, that team of experts is 40 people. 32 of them are frontline service representatives who can handle a whole range of issues: sales, account management, tech support, basic tech support and billing. In that 40-person team, we've got some advanced, more engineering kind of tier 2 tech support folks. We've got a workforce manager who kind of figures out the shifts in the coverage model for the team. And we've got a supervisor, and we got a couple of coaches as well who roam, and their job is to get everyone better. The team is paid not just on individual performance, but team performance. Here's the other thing. They tell their teams, you are small business owners. So rather than that individual, me as a customer from Salt Lake City, calling in and getting any random rep, now you, the 40-person team, you own this 250,000 person subscriber base in Salt Lake City. Your goals are as follows: not handle time, not adherence to QA, none of that stuff. We don't care about that stuff. What we care about is customer retention. We care about customer share of wallet and growth. And we care about advocacy, NPS and CSAT, and how much those customers are going out and turning other customers into potential T-Mobile customers as well. Have we created raving fans? That is what they're measured on. They are told, you, 40-person team of experts, own these 250,000 customers. You are small business owners. Now, tell us what you need to make that happen. So do you need us to revisit as leadership? Do you need us to change a policy or a procedure? Do you need better systems and technology? Do you need some funding for a campaign or something you want to run with your customers to drive higher upsell, cross-sell, more retention, or more advocacy? Tell us what you need. It is the model flipped upside down. No longer are T-Mobile experts, T-Mobile leadership saying, we have all the answers. Now we want to teach you how to deliver service in the way that we would do it if we could replicate ourselves thousands of times. The old model, the factory floor model of customer service, now is a servant leadership model. It is leadership working in support of those 40-person teams saying, what do you need to be successful? Now, the results from this model have been phenomenal. They have seen 71% decrease in transfers. They've seen a 31% reduction in escalations. They've seen a 25% reduction in customer churn, 56% increase in NPS. And here's the other thing. They've seen a massive decrease in rep attrition. And I'll tell you, this is one of the glorious ancillary benefits of, I think I skipped a slide. This is one of the glorious ancillary benefits of having a high CQ environment. You get all that stuff that T-Mobile has gotten: more advocacy, more upsell, cross-sell, better retention, fewer escalations, fewer transfers. When you trust your reps' judgment, when you treat them as small business owners, and you enter into that model of, we are here to serve you and help make this happen. But you get this glorious ancillary benefit too, which is really important in today's environment, where as leaders, we feel like service is spinning out of control. Everyone is leaving. It's a great resignation. I have fewer people and I can't backfill people fast enough. How do you get people to stay? How do you get them plugged in? How do you get them enjoying their work? You create a high CQ environment, and it's exactly what T-Mobile has seen. In our research, we found high CQ environments had significantly higher intent to stay and had much higher levels of discretionary effort. These are jobs people enjoy, and they are not jobs people want to opt out of because the work is fun. The work is fun because my company trusts me to do the right thing. I see how what I do matters, and it ties to our organizational objectives, and I'm part of a team, right? And I'm able to harness the wisdom of crowds, learn from my peers, contribute, and get better together. That is a great job, right? And that is really important in today's day and age. So here's the last thing I want you to think about. The answer today to get control is not to take control. The answer is to give control to your frontline, and much in the way that T-Mobile has, to embrace the ownership and true empowerment. Again, empowerment is not that you give your reps the ability to give a one-time credit for up to $25 or make an exception or waive a late charge. That's not empowerment. Empowerment is what companies like T-Mobile have done. They've harnessed the CQ that was inside their people. They didn't hire anybody different from any of who you hire, right? Same kind of people, same great people that make it into our contact center. They taught them the rules, they taught them the basics, and then they turned them loose and they unleashed the CQ that was latent within all of their people. So how do we do it? This feels like a lot of work, right? But there are small things we can start doing right away. Remember before I talked about how one of the signals we send our folks is that we send them to rote skills training designed to assert their judgment, not really hone and harness their natural judgment. So how could we send our people to a training experience that treats them like grownups, that feels more like graduate school, more like giving me the skills and the behaviors that will lead to my success, not training that's all about saying exactly what to do and taking 10 seconds to do it or 30 seconds to do it? What does that kind of training feel like? And that's why I'm really excited to partner with Challenger on this webinar, because that's what these folks are all about. They're all about delivering that different in kind enablement of the frontline, delivering that different kind, high CQ kind of training that we've talked about. So with that, Amy, I'm going to hand over to you. I've given you like a whole minute to get through your slides. Why don't you tell the team or the audience a little bit more about what the team at Challengers are doing, and then I know you have a specific idea for people, how people can kick the tires on this and get started on their high CQ journey right away.
Yep. Yeah, so here at Challenger, we work with organizations to upskill their reps in 9 skills that are centered around how the customer is perceiving the interaction. So these are those kind of graduate level skills, truly rooted in behavioral economics. And when they're done well, the lower the customer's perception of how much effort they're having to exert in the interaction. So it's really cool. And it means it's not changing what the customer has to do. It's just making it feel like it's less of a burden. So we're talking about things like teaching your rep how to tailor their communication styles to match that of the customer, how to surface additional information in a way that doesn't feel intrusive or like mindless chit chat. It gets your rep more information to better position possible solutions, because we know sometimes what the customer is asking for is not something that we can give them. So how do we figure out more information so that we can deliver what feels like a mutually beneficial option that they hadn't considered before? We're really teaching them how to engineer the experience to feel low effort, even if what they're doing, whether it's filling out a form or navigating something on the website, doesn't really change at all. And then we're also teaching them how to forward resolve future issues, so the customer doesn't have to contact the organization again for something that was related. And we all know that as customers, that can kind of be that final straw in your loyalty to a particular brand when you thought you were done and you're having to contact them again. And the great thing here is, like, your reps probably know those related issues. So how do we really teach them how to embrace that unique position that they're in to completely prevent that next touch point if they're taught how to properly do so, which in turn saves the company money. How we're doing this is a blended approach, which is really important for adult learning. So it's classroom training as well as on-the-job learning. We have an e-learning portal for reinforcement, because we know that training programs don't stick if they're just doing that classroom experience. And then we also set them up with role plays to really find a way to learn their skills in a safe to fail environment. So practicing them with their peers in specifically customized examples. So again, we're not teaching them what to say and what to do. We're giving them this great toolkit of skills that they can really use as they see fit during the course of an interaction. And they feel really good about it because they aren't being trained up on just average soft skills like Matt was talking about, just being polite. We're showing them really cool research about how customers think and how these small language tweaks can just dramatically change the outcome of a customer interaction. So if you want to learn more, we actually have a really cool opportunity coming up right around the corner in March, where we're going to be allowing people a chance to experience our classroom content and e-learning in what we're calling an early adopters program. We'll hold classroom sessions in a virtual setting over the course of 2.5 weeks. And then we'll allow people a chance to get into our e-learning portal as well to see what that learning experience looks like. We will have numerous companies in the classroom at the same time. So we're asking companies to select 2 customer service reps, a supervisor, and a leadership member to partake. So if you want to learn more, please just go ahead and write the words "more info" in the chat, or you can reach out to myself on the email that's at the bottom of the screen, albeit very small, amy.smith@challengerinc.com, and we'll get you more information. That's all the info that we have here today, but Matt and I are happy to stay on the line and answer any questions. And I just wanted to thank everyone so much for joining us, for staying on an extra 4 minutes. We almost made it, Matt.
Almost. We'll have to do it again. I'm up for the challenge next time, Amy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.